And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Friday, March 21st. I am Josh Engleman, here to break down two different size slates. 7 games on DraftKings, all 10 games on FanDuel. DraftKings dropped the two 10 o'clocks and the 10:30 start, so we are done at 9:30 tonight on the DraftKings end. FanDuel gets everything. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. Good morning, everybody. What's going on? Hope you guys enjoyed your Thursday. I did not play because I had puppy training yesterday, but definitely didn't expect the 6 guys to have north of 50 fantasy points to be Jimmy Butler, Benedict Mathurin, Nikola Vucevic, Kevin Huerter, Scotty Barnes, and Miles Turner. That is a list of names I didn't expect, considering Giannis is on this slate, LaMelo was on the slate, Towns was on the slate. And I definitely didn't expect, no matter how many guys are out for the Lakers, 29.25 fantasy points out of one Bronny James, who also was a crisp negative 36 for the game yesterday. Not quite what you're looking for there, Bron. But shout out to Benedict Mathurin. Shout out to Kevin Huerter. Shout out to stupid-ass Scotty Barnes playing 33 minutes. I mean, kudos to anybody that assumed anybody from Toronto would get real playing time. Never know what days those are going to pop up. Vooch, 24, 14, and 8, of course, after I've been thinking he looked like a great play for the past week. The day that I don't get any chance of him, he does exactly what you needed. Whew. Jellybean, how is that minus 36 calculated? Very simply. What is the score of the game when Bronny is on the floor? While he was on the floor, they were outscored by 36 real points. How owned was Scotty Barnes last night? I guess I should look at that. It couldn't have been a lot, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't technically know what happened during the slate. Like, I don't know if other guys were out. Yeah, 4% owned. Yeah, that makes sense. 4% owned Scotty Barnes. Obviously. Who saw that kind of playing time coming? Not me. Not me. All right, we got a lot to talk about. A bunch of games to break down. I got a question for you guys, though. What do you think of this visual experience? Easier to read? Harder to read? Thoughts? And obviously, there will be more to come here. But for right now, what do y'all think? It's got to be 105, I guess. There we go. Something along those lines. Harder to read. Okay. I'm adding more eventually and cleaning it up, but this was the first draft at trying to make this look a little bit better and a little bit cleaner. Some people saying harder to read, some not. We're going to play with this for a bit, figure out what we need to change. We can figure out a way to make this look a little crisper too. But I wanted to focus a little bit more. Maybe add borders to columns. Ooh, that might be tough, but sure. And we can quickly bounce from DraftKings to FanDuel. I got some highlighting on here as well. Ken, hard to see on the phone or better to see on? Let me pull it up on my phone, I guess. But I don't think I'm going to be the right guy to ask because I'm going to think that it's easy to see on my phone and I'm going to disagree with everybody else, is my guess. I mean, it's really easy to see on my phone if I don't have chat open. And if I do get chat open, how bad is it? Little tough with chat on the phone. But I blame the chat screen for that. We'll play with it. Oh, Matthew Cummings, you can definitely see it on the 65-inch TV. The font is off, Alex. Okay. I'll give like 5 seconds of testing a couple of different fonts to see if we can crisp up this visual. I don't think that one's it. There's going to be a font in here that we like. That I'm confident in. Ooh. That's probably a little better. Let's see if we can find a good font. All right. I'm going to keep playing with this, but I think this is what we're looking for here, or at least something. I'll bounce between our previous view as well, because this is still a work in progress. What I want you guys to remember is this. Color scheme. If a guy is highlighted in green, they are ranked in the top 10. If they are highlighted in yellow, they are 11th through 20th. If they are highlighted in red, they are 21st through 30th. If there is no highlight, they are outside of the top 30. So if you just want a quick indicator, if you don't see any color, that person is not in the top 30 of everything we're doing. We will hunt down a very readable font moving forward. But the Orlando Magic are 7.5-point dogs. That's not right. They're definitely favorites. The Orlando Magic are 7.5-point favorites. Why is that line wrong? Oh, that's why. I don't have that in there correctly. Either way, the line is 7.5. Magic are the favorites. 216 total. Taking on the Washington Wizards. Everybody that's normally available for Orlando is, save for a questionable tag on Cole Anthony. So he's been either out or bouncing around between in and out for the past week or two. We don't know his status yet. Scott, yeah, that makes sense to me as well. I'm going to play with that color stuff too. But for right now, that's what it is. And as I'm looking at it, I think obviously Orlando stands out a bit in a matchup like this. I'm going to go to this screen just so we can look at it a little bit different. Orlando gets the benefit of facing the Washington Wizards. We're talking about a team that isn't very good. Their defense is terrible. Their team is terrible. They're definitely in full tank mode. And we've got $8,600 Franz Wagner, shooting guard, small forward eligible. And he just looks incredible. Currently ranked third. I actually did run a sim before the show started. He's 40% owned. He showed up in 40% of my lineups. Now, do I expect him to be 40% owned later today? No, we're going to get news. It'll move around, something in the 30 to 40 range, but he should be. You get the perfect MPE. You get a $1,300 cheaper price tag than Paolo Banchero. Now, he's probably a 10th of a fantasy point worse, but the flexibility here is incredible. The matchup is great. I don't know how you dodge a lot of Franz today. Looks like a very like a very clear primary option. And then it's not like I don't like Paolo. He's ranking 13th. That's what the benefit of this Wizards matchup is going to give us. 9,900 power forward only, close to a 5x value, 1.34 fantasy points per minute. He's 27% optimal. He's 27% boom, 27% in my lineups, 27% owned. Like, Paolo against the Wizards is a priority. And then Wendell Carter Jr. picked up 2 fouls pretty early in their last game. They ended up giving a little bit more run to Goga for the first time in a while. I don't think that's like a new thing here, but I did knock off 2 minutes from Wendell Carter Jr. I got him at 28 minutes. That's 27 fantasy points, 5.7x. He's a really good value option today, and there's a reason he's getting 15% ownership. I'm not entirely sure I care too much. I think we're going to have better options than this, but he is clearly a 10 to 15%er today. After that, I don't think you're going to anything from Orlando. I have no interest in KCP. If Cole Anthony plays, he's usable at 5,100. You're hoping he gets real minutes. I got him in for 24. But, nothing crazy. What do you guys like here? I assume you guys are team Franz and Paolo, and it's more Franz than Paolo, but do you guys have any sort of cares here for the Orlando side? Not seeing any interesting Orlando bets right now. This is everything that is popping with value right now. Nothing on this list is coming from Orlando, so I don't have any recommended OddsShopper plays from the Magic. I think it's just play a bunch of Franz, who's in 44% of my lineups, and play a bunch of Paolo, who's in 27% of my lineups. Both of these guys look really good. Really good. Now, the Wizards, actually, let's take a look at the FanDuel side for all you guys, since it's not on the screen. It's kind of the same situation. Paolo's 40% owned. Franz is 40% owned. Franz is $1,000 cheaper than Paolo. Both of those guys are priorities. They're ranking 1st and 3rd on the FanDuel slate right now. Basically, no other ownership coming in. Nobody else from Washington or from Orlando is ranked in the top 30 on the FanDuel side. So it's really just focus on Paolo and Franz. Now, nope, that's not how you spell DraftKings. Now, on the Washington side, they do have some injury news. Marcus Smart is out. Obviously, we know Kispert's out and Koulibaly is out and Brogdon and Sadiq Bey, but Marcus Smart is out as well. Now, we are getting a little bit of ownership coming into this team, but I want to note one thing. I don't know who's playing and what minutes the Wizards dudes are playing. Like, just no clue whatsoever. Because they've been really weird with their minutes lately. You know, last time out, basically all of the team played 24 minutes except for JT Thor, Jalen Martin. Now, they were without Keyshawn George and Justin Champagnie there. Game before that, AJ Johnson got 35. Everybody else was in the mid-20s. So I'm not super confident about the minutes distribution for these guys. Like, I don't trust Jordan Poole's minutes right now. I don't trust Bub Carrington or AJ Johnson or Keyshawn George. I don't trust Sarr. The only guy that stands out for the Wizards right now is Tristan Vucevic. He's center only, 4,200. It appears that he is now at least the backup center, if not starting at the 5 with Sarr at the 4. That could have just been a particular matchup situation. But I don't know who's going to be getting this run. It's really difficult to tell. So I think the only guy that you could pay attention to truly is Tristan Vucevic. Because if he's going to get around 20 minutes. He's such a good per minute guy that he ends up being a 6x salary dude. So, oh wow, that Justin Champagnie was a DMP CD. Okay, interesting. Look, I have no confidence here. Maybe we have more value, but we have to remember this is a terrible spot for the Washington Wizards. This is a 216 total, which is the second lowest total on today's slate. This is a 94.7 pace. This is the second lowest pace on today's slate. I have the Wizards losing 4.5 possessions below their average. So outside of Tristan Vucevic right now, I can't confidently recommend anybody from Washington. Sarr's up to 6,700. I don't trust that any longer. It's really Vucevic and nothing. Maybe we find out that this looks a little bit different later today, but I have nothing else to add for the Wizards. Speaking of the Wizards, we don't have any recommended Wizard bets right now on Portfolio EV and the OddsShopper tool, but we're here right now taking a look if we do. Jay Neville, good to know. Thank you. It's going to get better over the next couple days. I got all of this together, but this was good enough to be able to use today. So let's go to game number 2. That's going to be the Houston Rockets. They are 5.5-point favorites against Miami. 214 total. This is the lowest total. This is the lowest pace. This is a game that is wildly uninteresting. 12% ownership coming into Houston right now. Amen Thompson is back. He is probable for this game. Only Reed Shepherd is out. So we're putting Amen Thompson into the lineup, and we're really just jam-packed with Houston guys that are probably a hair overpriced for having Amen Thompson in. We didn't get anybody into a 10% optimal. We didn't get anybody into a... Oh, wait, does this change? Oh, that's going to be my move. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. I can fix this quickly. Oh, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. This is going to be good. This is going to be very good. Now I can get this line correct. I didn't notice it before. It was going to drive me crazy if I didn't do this right now. Huzzah. Got it. All right. 7% optimal to Tari Eason is the most optimal we got of anybody. He's just outside the top 30 on DraftKings at 5% owned. He ranks 31st. Maybe you get a couple shares of Tari Eason. I got 5%, and I didn't get anything more. I don't have really any recommendations now with Amen Thompson back for Houston. It's arguably even worse on FanDuel. Nobody in the top 30. Tari Eason is 47th. He got to 4% owned. I think this is a stay away. This is the lowest total. It's the lowest pace. You've got increased salaries because of Amen Thompson being out. He's coming back at 7,900 on FanDuel, 8,900 on DraftKings. There's just nothing here for me. Deegs, both. There's just nothing here for me for Houston. And, you know, you would think Miami might be similar, but they've got some options today. So let's touch on the Miami Heat. Andrew Wiggins is questionable. That's really the only injury news that we have for the Heat. We did get 2 guys into the top 30. Jaime Jaquez is 16th. He's 4,300. He's small forward only. He's been playing, which is helpful. Last 4 games, 31, 27, 30, and 28. Now, obviously, we need the Andrew Wiggins news. That's going to matter, and I don't know what it's going to do to the rotation. But the only two guys that we're really paying attention to is Jaime Jaquez and Bam Adebayo. Jaquez at 20% owned. I got 16. He's 15% optimal. Looks good. Bam Adebayo, 13% owned. 8,400. Power forward, center eligible. Not the best per minute guy, but it seems like Bam is just kind of sitting here at 15% owned, and that's where he should be, ranking 23rd. I think you can get some shares of Tyler Hero. I think you can get some shares of Andrew Wiggins if he's in. Obviously, Jaquez and Bam don't appear to be going anywhere. Although the minutes for Jaquez could look a little weird if Wiggins gets back, but he did play 27 and 31 in 2 games with Wiggins about a week ago. But, you know, there's nothing overwhelming other than if Jaquez continues to get 28 minutes a night, 4,300 small forward eligible here, that's a good value. Because he's a 0.9 fantasy point per minute dude. If he's getting 28 minutes, that makes him a 5.8x salary guy. That's good value for today. Do you guys like anything specific from Miami? Do we have any Miami bets? Bam Adebayo, 2 OddsShopper rating, 1.6% EV, but it is a negative 0.9 historical ROI. So probably one that I would leave alone for right now. Otherwise, we don't have anything else for Miami. Ken, I think Eason's probably going to start today, but that could move around as we move forward. Let's go to New Orleans. The Pelicans are 14-point underdogs in Minnesota. 228 total. Big time dogs here. Obviously, Trey Murphy now out for the rest of the year. They don't have any other injury news, though. It's like the guys that are permanently out are out. Otherwise, everybody is in. That is creating a little bit of ownership to Jose Alvarado. He's been playing around 27 minutes a night. That's what we have him in for here today. Speaking of, let's actually make that show up for what we got. There we go. Well, 4,600, 5.6x value, just shy of a fantasy point per minute. He's 14% optimal, 28% chance of 33 fantasy points, ranking 19th. Showed up in 13% of my lineups. I'm expecting Alvarado to be around 15% owned, no matter what. Zion is always interesting. 9,100, small forward, power forward eligible. So you get that MPE, and it's not the power forward center MPE like we were used to. He's 11% optimal. Showed up in 14% of my lineup. So I think Alvarado and Zion are the two guys you pay attention to the most from the Pels. But, you know, $5,100 Kelly Olynyk is probably a little sneaky today. He's 5% owned. I think $7,100 CJ McCollum is probably a little sneaky, around 5% owned. I think both of those guys look like interesting GPP pivots. Probably not going to much else. A flyer on Bruce Brown, a flyer on Jordan Hawkins, maybe. But that's pretty far down the line. To me, it's Alvarado and it's Zion. Do we have anything interesting on the FanDuel side? No, it's worse. Alvarado is ranked 20th. He's 15% owned. There's no real ownership coming into anybody else. That's actually not my... just so you know, the Josh exposures are DraftKings only. I got to set up that formula to hide everything on the FanDuel side because I don't have FanDuel lineups in here. I should probably just do that while I talk. That won't be all that hard to do. What do you guys like from the Pelicans, if anything? Are you going to go to Alvarado? What do you guys like the most here? If anything. Do you like anything at all here? Because I can't imagine you do. I mean, being a 14-point dog, you know what's really funny? They're 14-point dogs, and that's not the biggest line today, and it's not even close. No Pels bets either. Nothing out there on the New Orleans side for us to hit on the portfolio EV tool. Let's check out the Minnesota side. Let's see if that looks any better. Minnesota, obviously 14-point favorites here. They don't have any injury news. We are getting a little bit of love into Mike Conley. He's currently projected for 20% ownership. He's 3,600, but his minutes have been yo-yoing all over the place. 28 last time out, 32 the game before that. Then it was 24 and 20. We got him in for 25, but if he could play 28 or 32, he's going to be one of the best plays of the day. But even in 25 minutes, 16% optimal, 32% chance of 28 fantasy points. Mike Conley ranks 15th. He's in 20% of my stuff. I think it's pretty clear that Mike Conley is the best option from Minnesota, with Anthony Edwards being a relatively close second, 9,700, shooting guard only, 15% optimal, only 10% owned. So maybe a hair under owned for Ant. But Conley's fascinating. If he gets anything north of 25 minutes, he's a top 10 play. And even at 3,600, you probably need a decent chunk of him. Are you guys willing to play Mike Conley today? No Minnesota bets other than Conley under PRA, but that is also a negative historical ROI. So I think we could probably dodge that one. Couple Goberts, interesting. 6,100, 10% owned. Might be a hair over owned. Gary, McDaniels is a tough sell right now with these guys being healthy. He's overpriced. He's overpriced. That's what we got here for Minnesota. Yeah, we've got some other center value that we're going to need to break down, and I think that'll make Gobert look a little bit. Why is Ant in pink? So that color scheme represents being ranked 21st to 30th. I'm going to go ahead and change that to a different color so people don't think it means something that it doesn't. Shit. I got to reapply all of these stupid rules. Yeah, it's not happening now, but I'll do that so that it's not pink moving forward. I don't like that, but because of the way that I put the formatting in, I got to clean it up. All right, let's get to the dumbest game of the day. Are you guys ready for this? Because this is next level stupid. We have not seen this. I have been waiting for this all year. Oh, it came down a little bit. Whatever, I'm saying it anyway. I don't give a shit. The Charlotte Hornets, when I prepped my data, were 20-point underdogs in Oklahoma City. Now, the line has moved to 19.5, but I'm saying 20 because it makes me feel better. 20-point dogs. They're on a back-to-back. We don't know who's playing, but I think we can confidently say that Mark Williams is not playing the back-to-back. I have gone with the assumption that LaMelo Ball is also not playing this back-to-back so that we could actually get the 20-point line. Because I got it at 20 with no LaMelo, and it is 20. So, Charlotte Hornets, shorthanded. We are projecting Salon. We are projecting Damian Bow. We are getting value here, but it's to two things and two things only, and I don't know how to balance it, and it's going to take a real conversation to figure it out. If Mark Williams isn't playing today, something is going to exist here at center, whether that's Nurk, whether that's Diabate, whether that's both of them. Something's going to pop up here. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what their center rotation is going to be. I'm not super confident in who's going to start. I am fully expecting Charlotte to do some dumb shit. But if Mark Williams isn't playing, and I don't expect him to be playing a back-to-back, Yusuf Nurkic is 3,700. Musa Diabate is 3,800. Diabate is a fantasy point per minute guy. Nurkic is like 1.2 plus. There's going to be ownership here that's not showing up right now. I got 85% of Nurk because I got him in for 22 minutes. He's the number one play of the day to me if you project him for 22 minutes. But I don't know. Scott, no one has a Q tag. They're on a back-to-back. No one has an injury report. Please don't look at FanDuel or DraftKings. So I don't know what we're going to do here with Nurkic and Diabate, but we're going to do something. We're going to do something. And they could even play more minutes. Do I know if they're going to play Taj Gibson? I certainly don't. That's another complicating factor in all of this. But they look amazing. Absolutely amazing. Mark Williams has sat out their last back-to-backs, so I feel comfortable there. In theory, LaMelo could play, but the line does not imply that. And don't forget, this is an Oklahoma City team that doesn't have Lou Dort or Jalen Williams. They're 20-point favorites, missing 2 starters. Now, obviously, Charlotte's missing like 4 of them, but the point remains. Nurk and or Diabate seem like they are going to be massive owned and priority plays on the DraftKings side. Maybe you can get to a little bit of Miles Bridges. I don't expect to get to much else from Charlotte, but this is a game you need to put a pin in. The starters are going to matter. The starting center is going to matter, but we just don't know it yet. And we really need their injury report. Miles Bridges could sit today. But if Nurk is starting, he'll be the most popular play on today's slate. So just keep that in mind for later. FanDuel side's going to be basically the same thing, but slightly different. Nurk and Diabate both look like top 10 plays. Nurk's 4,400, Diabate's 4K. They're center only, so you can't play them together. Who you end up playing here is going to be an interesting dynamic that's way more interesting for deeper dive and live before lock discussions. But just remember what you need to do with Charlotte today. Do we have any Charlotte bets? We don't. So, remember what we're doing here. Now, for OKC, clearly 20-point favorites. No Jalen Williams. No Lou Dort. Cason Wallace is questionable. Nobody ranks well here. We're expecting reduced minutes, obviously. Nobody got to 10% ownership on DraftKings. I got like 10% of Shea, 10% of Cason Wallace, 10% of Chet. I'm okay with that. I just have a really hard time wanting to pick someone from Oklahoma City and jam them here. Yeah, like, is Shea awesome? Sure. This is a scary spot for minutes. Like, I gave Shea 34, but we project him for 31 because of game scripts. So, and the Cason Wallace news will matter here. If he's out, that's just, 29 more minutes than we can redistribute to some of these guys. Maybe Isaiah Joe ends up looking a little bit better. But there's not much from OKC that I would say get a lot of. I would say 10% of Shea, 10% of Wallace, 10% of Chet seems fine. A couple shares of Hartenstein seems like it could be okay as well. But I'm still willing to get to them. It's just not the volume you'd expect. Now, we do have a really big Oklahoma City bet here. 16 OddsShopper rating. Under 6.5 assists for SGA. It's plus 110 on DraftKings. 7% EV. This is the second best available play. If you bet on DraftKings, run to the Sportsbook right now and drop some shekels down on SGA under 6.5 assists. Amazing play. Only one we have here for OKC, but you guys need to get it and get it quick. It's a wild game, man. 20-point line. Oof. Oof. Can you imagine if Jalen Williams was in? It'd be 22. It'd be 22. But yeah, go get that Shea line right now. sitting there at plus 110. It's minus, oh, that's the 7.5 line. Okay, so there's like heavy negative juice on 7.5 at most of the books. That's creating a bit of value on that 6.5. So yeah, if you can get anything today coming out of Portfolio EV, there's not much better than that SGA play right now. So hustle it up. You don't want to miss it. There are not going to be a lot of lines that look better than that throughout the rest of this show. And just FYI for the FanDuel side, nobody ranking high, 5% ownership on the Thunder. Highest ranked guy is Chet at 41st. So that's where we stand. Game 5. Philadelphia 76ers are 5.5-point underdogs at San Antonio. 241 total. So this is a pretty sizable total for this game. We're getting a little bit of ownership to Philly. San Antonio is the most owned team on today's slate. By all accounts, Philly has 10 dudes. By all accounts, Philly has 11 dudes. Lonnie Walker is back from his concussion. Kelly Oubre's still out. Maxi's still out. Drummond's still out. Adam Bona still out. But we are getting some love here. Jared Butler, 6,300. Point guard, shooting guard eligible. He's 28% optimal. 31% chance of 31% chance of 42 fantasy points. He ranks 7th. 25% of my lineups. He's 25% owned. Jared Butler is the best play coming out of Philly. I think you can get some Ricky Council, who ranks in the top 30. I think you can get some Yabusele, who ranks in the top 20. He's in 10% of my lineups. I'm obviously not going to an $8,800 Quentin Grimes. If you do, you are making a mistake. He is a terrible play. I don't think that I should have to justify this any longer, but I will. Do not play Quentin Grimes. I know you guys want to. He's 8,800. He looks awful. Don't play him. Justin Edwards is whatever. O'Shea Brissett is whatever. Lonnie Walker is whatever. I think the only guys that you're really focused on are going to be Jared Butler, Ricky Council, and Yabu. There's probably a case to be made for Lonnie Walker later today, depending on if the minutes move around. It's kind of tricky with him coming back from that concussion. But all I want to make sure you guys know is that you should not be playing Quentin Grimes today. On the FanDuel side, Jared Butler honestly looks even better. 5,700 point guard only, close to 50% owned. Now, I don't expect Jared Butler to be 50% owned, but he's going to be 35 plus on the FanDuel side, given that price tag, given that role. So Butler, a bit of a priority on FanDuel. Ricky Council is about 20% owned on the FanDuel side as well. He looks interesting, ranking in the top 25. Grimes is like just barely playable on FanDuel because he's 8K. He's shooting guard, small forward eligible. He's got a 10% chance of 50 fantasy points. But let's be clear here. Quentin Grimes still ranks 91st on FanDuel. You don't want to play him there either. But if you're playing him anywhere, it's FanDuel. Just don't play him on DraftKings, please. Just listen to me here. Just listen to me here. You can't do it. You can't do it. You are making a mistake if you do. Roan Bird, Grimes had 43 points. Didn't even play the fourth quarter. Quentin Grimes played 6 minutes in that game in the fourth quarter. It was the reason he got to 43 fantasy points. Well, if you knew that Grimes was going to get 40 minutes, then you might play him. But you shouldn't. I'm not confident there's a worse play than Quentin Grimes on DraftKings. I think he's legitimately the worst play of the day. Because people want to click him because they don't pay attention to salary. And people will click him because he plays well, even though the most important thing of anything in DFS is salary. He's 8,800, guys. It's 8,800. If I have the opportunity to play Quentin Grimes at 8,800, or I can play Donovan Mitchell at 8,700, those two things aren't the same. So I will have 0 Quentin Grimes. I hope you guys listen to me and also have 0 Quentin Grimes. What you are going to have a lot of, though, are the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs started Jeremy Sohan last time out, not Bismack Biyombo. Yeah, Coffabis. Well, one, we started to lose some of the pay-ups, so like 3 to 4 made a little bit more sense. But you are explaining exactly why he's an awful play. Because I think we're going to underestimate his ownership because people keep clicking his name, and they shouldn't. So if we're projecting, let's say we project 5% ownership, and he ends up at 10, he's an awful play at 5. And he's much worse at 10. So us being wrong low on a trending guy like Grimes helps to make my point even more. He's a worse play because of that. The guys that aren't bad plays, though, today on San Antonio, everybody. Jeremy Sohan currently ranks 2nd. Chris Paul ranks 4th. Devin Vassell ranks 5th. Keldon Johnson ranks 6th. Sohan's 50% owned. Vassell's 40% owned. Keldon Johnson and Chris Paul are both 30% owned. Even Julian Champagne's getting like 15% ownership. It's a great matchup against Philly. The total is exceptional. There's plenty of playing time to go around. You got to get all of this. I got 40% of Vassell, 40% of Sohan, 30% of Keldon Johnson, close to 40 of Chris Paul. And let's be clear here. I'm aware Chris Paul's playing less minutes, but he's 4,600. He's over a fantasy point per minute in this spot. You only need 33 out of him. Looking good. He's looking good. Played 31 minutes last time out. I don't have him anywhere near that in projection, but at least we know it's in the cards. Get a lot of Chris Paul. I mean, we're getting multiple cash game options out of San Antonio. Vassell has just been playing 33, 34 minutes a night. Guard forward, 6,800, 1.1 fantasy points per minute. Gonna be heavily owned, looks great. If Sohan's starting again at center at 5,100, he also has power forward eligibility. That makes it really difficult to get away from. He's the second best play of the day, only behind Nurkic. And that could change. Sohan could be 1 by the end of this. Keldon Johnson just seems to be playing like 26 minutes every night, 4,700, small forward, power forward eligible. The important part of San Antonio is that these guys are all fantasy point per minute guys. Vassell at 1.1, Castle at 1.1, Sohan at 1.1, Keldon at 1.1, Paul over 1.1. Champagne's at 0.9. He still looks good. He ranks 22nd. This is your number 1 team of the day, and it's not close. It's not close at all. I want every bit of this San Antonio team. Yeah, maybe Mamu scores 50 fantasy points in 14 and a half minutes again. Now, obviously, you can see Stephon Castle not highlighted. 6,700, point guard, shooting guard eligible. Looks like a reasonable 10%er. But the priorities here are Vassell, Sohan, Keldon Johnson, and Chris Paul. What do you guys want to play from San Antonio? Let's see if we have any Spurs bets. We do not have any Spurs bets right now. Let's check the FanDuel side for you guys. Now, these guys are not nearly as good on the FanDuel end. prices are a lot higher. Sohan is power forward, only 5,500, so he is a priority on both sites. He's 40% owned, but Vassell is way more expensive, so he's owned less. Still looks good, ranks 19th, but not the same. Castle, 7,200. He doesn't look that great. Keldon Johnson's fine, right around that 15% mark. But Chris Paul's 5,800. You can't really do that much on FanDuel. Champagne is a 5% guy as well. If you're playing San Antonio, they're a much better play on DraftKings than they are on FanDuel. But it's Team San Antonio on the DraftKings side. You know what I want to talk about quickly before we keep this moving? I think you guys are going to like this. You ready? MLB is here. And if you guys want to sign up for our MLB DFS packages, you can get it for $1 through April 3rd. So if you sign up today, you will have our MLB DFS package we have. If you use the promo code CYCLE, you will get it for $1 until April 3rd. Now, if you sign up tomorrow for the same deal, it's still $1 through April 3rd. No matter what, if you use the promo code CYCLE, $1 gets you our projections, our ownership, our Sims tools, premium Discord, everything you can want on the MLB side. You get it for $1 until April 3rd. So head on over to Stokastic, enter the promo code CYCLE for any MLB package, weekly, monthly, whatever you want. It's only going to run until April 3rd, at which point, whichever package you choose will re-up at that point. But for now, you only get it for $1. So come on in for some MLB DFS for $1, promo code CYCLE. All right, next game up, Detroit and Dallas. Pistons, 8.5-point favorites. 8.5-point favorites in Dallas, 236 total. Detroit is at full strength. Now, they are getting a little bit of ownership love, but they're not getting as much love in our boom bust tool. The highest ranked guy we have is Asar Thompson. Ooh, I got to plug in my watch. Give me 1 second, guys. Apologies. If I don't plug this in now, it'll be dead. So Asar Thompson's getting 14% ownership. We have him as the highest ranked Piston. 14% optimal, 23% boom score, 5,300 shooting guard, small forward eligibility. Oh, shit. This is FanDuel. I was wondering why it looked like shit. DraftKings looks better. I knew they looked bad on FanDuel from earlier. The DraftKings side of Detroit is tolerable. Lots of ownership, arguably over-owned. 35% ownership coming into Cade. He's 10,400, point guard only. He's 28% optimal. He's 25% chance of 62 fantasy points. Cade ranks 12th. Looks really good. Showed up in 28% of my lineups. Faces a shitty Dallas team. I'm not surprised. Tobias Harris, 5,500. Plays 32 minutes a night. 0.9 fantasy points per minute. He's 14% optimal. 17% owned. Absolutely should be 15 to 20%. Jalen Duren, I would argue, is over-owned. Matchup is fantastic. Duren is 6,700. It's a 5.4 value, 1.25 fantasy points per minute. We got him 22% optimal, 33% boom score. He does rank 11th, but he's 30% owned. I only got to 20, and I think that makes some sense. We've got a lot of center value out there. Guys like Nurkic are really taking a bite out of it. It's going to look a little bit different, but Jalen Duren's going to look like a good play all day, as is Asar Thompson, who's 25% owned, 4,300, small forward, power forward eligible, 18% optimal, should be 20% owned. Detroit looks good. They're the second most owned team, and they should be. This is a really good matchup here against Dallas. Don't have a ton of interest in Tim Hardaway, but Malik Beasley's fine for 10 to 15%. I think Schroeder's fine if you want to go for like 5% here. But if I'm ranking Detroit, it's Cade 1, it's Asar Thompson 2, Duren 3, Tobias Harris 4, Malik Beasley 5. Do you guys like anything from the Pistons? We do not have any Detroit Pistons bets right now on the Portfolio EV tool. What do you guys like? Gary likes Duren. Bridgeline, THJ. I'm not taking you seriously there. If you're serious, don't play them. If you're not serious, don't troll. What else do you guys like from the Pistons? Donnie likes Cade. There we go. Now we're naming real people. Now we're naming real people. And yeah, on the FanDuel side, I think these guys are a bit overowned. You know, we're not seeing nearly the interest. Cade's not as interesting. Tobias Harris is not as interesting. Duren is still a little interesting. Malik Beasley is probably the best option coming on FanDuel, given where his ownership is right now. But this is much more of a DraftKings side than it is a FanDuel side. Now, for Dallas, I'm just going to say right now, I have no idea what to do here. So I don't want anybody to get married to this. Still no AD, still no Caleb Martin. Brandon Williams is probable. So they have 10 guys today. No one ranks well. I just don't know how many minutes these dudes are playing. I have no idea how to project basically anybody here. There are some guys that I feel more confident than others, but I don't know the relationship of minutes for Spencer Dinwiddie, Jaden Hardy, and Brandon Williams. I have no clue. No clue. I don't know how many minutes Kai Jones can play. I don't know who's going to get cut. Is Dinwiddie going to keep playing 36? Or with Brandon Williams back, are Brandon Williams, Jaden Hardy, and Spencer Dinwiddie just going to take from each other? I don't know. We got 5% ownership to PJ Washington and nothing else to anybody else. I don't think anybody looks good here. This may change slightly by the time we get to lock, but I don't know what to do with their minutes. And I think the guards are interesting depending on what you do. But as of right now, I have no recommendations from Dallas. And that's on DraftKings or FanDuel. If you're going anywhere on FanDuel, it's going to be PJ Washington, but even then, it seems a little scary. So it's tough. Kep wants to know if there's a way to make sure you don't get someone in the Sims. Don't choose them. Negative boost, filter out lineups with the minute. Whatever you want to do. I don't ever do that. But yeah, either the biggest negative boost you could find or just simply filter those lineups. All right, let's keep moving. Let's go to the final game of the DraftKings slate. The Boston Celtics, 13-point favorites in Utah, 227 total. Jaylen Brown is out. Otherwise, everybody is available for Boston. We're getting 15% ownership to Jason Tatum. He's 11K, small forward, power forward eligible, 1.45 fantasy points per minute, ranks 17th, showed up in 23% of my lineups, 23% optimal. I would argue Jason Tatum is a hair under-owned in this spot. Drew Holiday is the priority play coming out of Boston, 20% owned, 5,500, point guard, shooting guard eligible. The minutes have been up as of late. There's still no Jaylen Brown. He ranks 9th. He's in 25% of my lineups, 27% optimal, 32% chance of 38 fantasy points. You're getting Tatum. You're getting Holiday. I think you're getting Derek White at 7,700. Point guard, shooting guard eligible, ranks 26th. He's in 17% of my stuff. Got a little bit of KP. 8,200 center only. Not the most fun spot in the world, but certainly happy to get 5 to 10% of Kristaps Porzingis. Couple shares of Al Horford I think is normal too. I don't expect to have any interest in Sam Hauser. There's just going to be better value there, but the big four out of Boston today, Tatum, Holiday, White, Porzingis, they're all in the top 30. But the priority is Holiday, then Tatum, White, then Porzingis. What are you guys doing with Boston? Because obviously they look good here against Utah. Unfortunately, we don't have any Boston bets, though. No Boston bets. But yeah, the main four out of Boston look damn good here in this spot against Utah. Gary wants White. I get it. Jelly Beans riding the Holiday train. That's the one to get to. FanDuel side for Boston, kind of the same thing. Those four guys are in the top 30. Derek White ranks 6th. He is the clear best play. So it's Drew Holiday on DraftKings. It's Derek White on FanDuel. Drew and Porzingis are both about 15% owned. They're both in the top 20. Jason Tatum's 10,500. He's only 8% owned. Ranks 22nd. We have him 15% optimal. I would argue Jason Tatum's the most under-owned guy on the FanDuel side right now in terms of like guys that can change your entire day. But if you're playing Boston, you're only focused on their four main dudes. Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis. It just depends which site you're playing on. And then we get to Utah. Again, final spot on the DraftKings slate. No ownership to Utah. Now, they have no John Collins. They have no Lauri Markkanen, no KJ Martin. Svi and Jaden Springer are both questionable. We didn't get anybody on DraftKings with an optimal rate higher than 1. We didn't get any ownership higher than 1. I think Utah is fully unplayable. I got 1 share of Bryce Sensabaugh, and that's it. I have absolutely nothing to add for the Utah Jazz. To me, they are the worst team on the DraftKings slate. It is the same scenario for Utah on FanDuel. 1% ownership to Keontae George, 1% optimal to Keontae George. I can't imagine playing anything. They don't have a single guy in the top 100 on FanDuel. Yeah, Trevor, it is probably Karl Malone's fault. You probably bring in a lot of bad vibes when you impregnate a 14-year-old girl. I think she was 14. Was she younger or older than that? Part of me actually makes me think she was younger. Nope, she was younger. She was 13. 13. So an even bigger piece of garbage. Totally forgot. 13. You suck, Karl Malone. All right, we're going to close this one out with a quick lap through the remaining 3 FanDuel games. I'm not going to spend a ton of time here. We got Cleveland, 7.5-point favorites in Phoenix, 239 total. No real ownership coming in on the Cleveland side. Best we could tell, everybody's available. Nobody got to more than 10% ownership. Nobody got to more than 10% optimal. You want to play Garland or Mitchell or Mobley or Allen, I think that's reasonable. I don't think you're getting a lot of these guys, but anywhere from 5 to 10% is totally fine here. Also, by the way, if I didn't say it before, I do want to say it. If you want to sign up for the Portfolio EV tool, you can get a 7-day free trial always. If you're interested in sports betting or pick'em sites, the link is in the description of this video. All you have to do is click that link and sign up. You get a week for free. No strings attached. If you hate it, cancel at any time. You'll have it for the week and then you're just done. If you like it, I hope you re-up. But 7-day free trial is always available. If you want to take a look at that market-based approach to beating the books the same way we were looking at it, you can do that by signing up. Oh, Justin Stevens, I've been doing this for 7 years, brother. I've been shouting into the void about this stuff forever. It'll never stop. All right. Phoenix side on FanDuel. Nothing totally interesting, although if Colin Gillespie gets the start again at point, 3,900 point guard only. He's a 0.9 guy. He's only 6% owned right now. I think that number could be a little bit higher. I gave him 25 minutes. He didn't play the fourth quarter last time out, but technically he could have. That might be an overly optimistic projection. But if I'm paying attention to Phoenix, I'm going to go to Colin Gillespie. I don't really have any interest in Kevin Durant or Devin Booker, but obviously they are playable guys because they're good. We go to Denver. This one's really problematic on the FanDuel side. No Nikola Jokic today for Denver. We don't know the status of Jamal Murray. We are getting 30% ownership to Murray if he is in at 8,200. That should not be surprising. Good matchup against Portland and no Jokic. So if Murray is in, I am interested in Jamal Murray. He's a top 10 play on FanDuel. Christian Brown's a 20% owned guy on FanDuel. Hard to get away from that. Michael Porter Jr. is a 20% owned guy. He ranks 25th. Aaron Gordon started at the 5. He's 30% owned. 6,200 power forward only. Big priority. Russell Westbrook's 10% owned. Probably should be 15% owned. If Murray is in, you're playing a lot of Murray, Brown, Porter, Gordon, and Westbrook on FanDuel. No Nikola Jokic changes everything. If Murray happens to be out, there's even more value to go around on Brown, Porter, Gordon, Westbrook, and then somebody else, whether that's Peyton Watson or whether that's one of the randos like Spencer Jones. There's a lot to love for Denver today. They are a big priority on FanDuel, and they might be even bigger priority if Jamal Murray happens to be out. On the Portland side, they continue to be without Jeremy Grant, who's doubtful. Jabari Walker is still in the concussion protocol. Time Lord is still out. We're getting 10 to 20% ownership on Toumani Camara, Denny Avdia, Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson, and Donovan Clingan. Clingan, Sharpe, Avdia, and Camara are all in the top 30. I'm a little bit less interested in the ownership on Simons. I'm a little bit less interested in the ownership of Scoot, but they're both reasonable 10% guys. I think the best guy that you can get to for Portland is Toumani Camara. I think Shaedon Sharpe and Denny Avdia are both close. And then Donovan Clingan for 6K, totally reasonable 15% option. This is a priority game, and you should try to get a lot of both the Denver side and the Portland side to make your late swaps easier. So I don't know who your specifics will be for Denver, but whoever they are, they're very interesting. So get a lot of this on FanDuel. And then finally, our last game, Memphis and the Clippers, 10:30 start. Memphis is still without Ja Morant. They are without Brandon Clark today. Gigi Jackson is with the G League team. Lamar Stevens is out. Highest optimal rate on FanDuel is 5% to Santi Aldama. Highest ownership is 7 to Santi Aldama. There's not a single priority here for Memphis. Underdogs, tough matchup against the Clippers. I got nothing to add here. I will say we do have some Clippers value bets. 10 OddsShopper rating on Kawhi. Under 32.5 PRA. Under 8.5 assists for James Harden, plus 110, 12% historical ROI, 5% EV. Excellent. Roanbird, because they're not on the DraftKings main slate. For the Clippers, these guys are at full strength. Their rotation is getting a little bit cloudy. The only guys getting ownership are their 3 good players. James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Ivica Zubac. Harden's ranked 15th. Zoo's ranked 17th. Kawhi is ranked 28th. They're all 10 to 15% owned. I would rank them Harden, Zoo, Kawhi. I'd be happy to get to any of those 3 guys in 10 to 20% of lineups. I would not roster anybody else from the Clippers. 10 games up, 10 games down. We got a hell of a slate today. We got a big old schedule. I'm live on the Deeper Dive at 5 o'clock, live before lock at 6. Greg and I will be live on playback for an hour from 7 to 8, breaking down all of this news, all of the late swaps, because we got a game locking at 7. We've got 4 games locking at 8. So that's stretched towards the final parts of playback live after lock. We're going to be talking all of the news and all of the potential late swaps for 4 different games at 8. Then we have the 8:30 and the 9:30 on DraftKings. And then there's 3 more on FanDuel. Plenty to go around tonight. Incredible slate. I hope you guys enjoy it. Plus, you have college basketball that you can bet on using the Portfolio EV tool. Good luck tonight, everybody. Love having you guys. I'll see you guys Sunday morning for the strategy show. Go tell Eitan I said hi.